Hiya, Laura here, welcome back. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you all liked my previous video. I thought I'd try something a little bit different and just have music. I really liked it and I hope you guys did as well. Back to the norm today though, chatty. So today I thought we could make these little clipboards that I'm going to be selling in my Etsy store really soon. I put a picture up on Facebook and I had a few people asking me to show a tutorial on how I made them. So here they are here. So little vintage styled clipboards. So I'm going to be selling two different sizes and two different styles. So there's the bronze and silver, but we're going to make the little one today. As I'm assuming most of you will have this size of clip rather than this size. So obviously the bigger you want to make your board, the bigger you will want to make your clip, just so that it's holding the appropriate size paper without struggling. This little clip would probably look kind of weird on this size of board. I'm not saying you couldn't do it, it would just probably look out of place and it wouldn't be as functional for the size of paper that you would want to hold on this size of board. So that being said, let's just get right on into it. I'm going to shove these out the road and I'm going to just show you what I'm going to use. So you're going to want to use something that's relatively sturdy, like a book board or chipboard or something like that. You do want to be able to write on this without having to lean on another surface. So I'm going to be using a vintage book page, a book cover. So this is from one of the Observer books. Size wise, I can get a hold of it. It is 9 centimeters by 14.5 centimeters, or 3.5 inches by 5 3/4 inches. So this is the size that I'm going to be working with. Obviously it is entirely up to you what size you want to work with. This is a good size for the smaller clips. I'm going to be doing a silver one today. So these are the bulldog clips that I'm going to be using, and I believe they're just shy of an inch. Yeah, they're 3/4 of an inch long. The larger ones, if you're wanting to know, are 1.5. So these ones here are 1.5 inches, just to kind of give you an idea. So you're going to need some sort of sturdy board. If you want to use, like for instance, a cereal box, I would suggest reinforcing it by putting maybe 4 or 5, maybe even 6 layers together, so that you get this nice sturdy book board feel. You can do it, it's just going to take you a little bit longer basically. So make sure that it's nice, it's not going to bend, and it's just nice and strong, so that when you're writing you're not feeling like you should lean on something else. I hope that made sense. So paper wise, I've been using scrapbooking card. So the ones that I'm going to be using today are from this, which is the pastel pinks, and I got it from the Works for £3. It is a really pretty, almost kind of modern vintage style pastel kind of palette style collection of papers. And these are cut-offs that I've cut for the larger clipboards, and I thought I would use the cut-offs because they fit in perfectly and I really like the paper. So what you want is, you want the paper to go all the way around in a nice border, because you will be folding this over on one side. So you want a nice long border, and I'm actually just going to mark here where I want to cut. So what I would do, if obviously you're cutting straight from a piece of paper, is measure how much you want, and you're wanting about at least 1 centimetre either side. So say that this is 9 centimetres, so you're going to cut 11 centimetres from your paper. So this is 3.5 inches, so I would cut about 4.5 inches. So I would add another inch. And the same for the top. So centimeters wise, this is 14.5. So I would cut it to about 17. Just so that I've got a nice even border all the way around, so I'm not going to be fiddling with it to trim it. So that is only for the front side. For the back side, you want it to fit snugly and leaving a border, but we'll get to that at the nearer the end. Oh. True to form, I forgot one thing, but I've just grabbed it. So I'm just going to trim this down to where I put my little pencil line, and I now have my board, and I'm just going to flip it over and I'm going to glue it right in the center. You can use any glue you want here. I would suggest using a fast drying glue because it's kind of fiddly when it comes to folding them over, but obviously you can still use a PVA glue. You might just need a few more of these to clip the sides down while they dry, but I would suggest using a fast drying glue. I'm going to be using the Beacon 3-in-1 Advanced Craft Glue. It dries relatively fast and it's really strong, so I know it's going to last and survive and it's not going to peel up or anything like that. So you want to make sure obviously that your board is completely straight all the way around. You don't want any diagonal cuts. A book board is perfect, even if you were to kind of jump into your charity shop and pick up a little just a little throwaway book. I say throwaway book, but it's just a little like fairy tale kiddie book. You could use that and that would give you a nice little size for relatively cheap. You usually can pick those up for like 20 pence or something. So I'm going to flip that over and I'm just going to grab my bone folder and give it a good old score. If you don't have a bone folder, don't worry, you can use a butter knife or even just your ruler. Some people recommend using the back of your scissors. I wouldn't do that. It can offset the balance of your scissors, so that when you come to actually using them to cut, it can destroy them basically. So I wouldn't suggest using the back side of your scissors. For scoring, you can use the front side of your scissors and just be gentle, but for actual like rubbing, I wouldn't suggest using your scissors. So just making sure that that's nice and stuck down. And I'm going to grab one of these little doodads. You don't need one of these. It's just what I prefer to use because I have it. But you don't need one of these. You can use like the back of a brush, or if you have one of these thinner bone folders, that would actually work really well as well. Or like I said, you can use your scissors and just be gentle with it. But I'm basically going to just score right along the edge of my book. And just because this is a cardstock and it's pretty thick cardstock, I want to just make it easier on myself when it comes to the folds. You don't necessarily have to do this, but I would suggest it. I'm then going to cut just about that much off my corner, so I'm still leaving a good maybe centimetre, quarter of an inch space to fold over the edge. I'm just getting rid of that excess to avoid bulk. And then I'm going to fold this part and this part, and then I'm going to score them again and just make sure that they're nice and folded, and it's just going to make gluing it all that much easier for myself. When you're gluing, you want to do the mirror effect, so you don't want to kind of go clockwise or anti-clockwise. You want to do the facing folds, and that's just going to give you a nice neat finish. and it's just going to make sure that everything's a lot easier on you as well. Because if you do it in the clockwise motion, it's going to make your last fold pretty hard, and it's going to make it pretty bulky as well. Whereas if you do, make sure you drop your glue on top of your glue, that's essential. But no, if you do it the way that I'm suggesting, you'll get less bulk and it'll just be a lot easier on yourself. So you want to push that down and give it a good score and make sure that that glue has fully gripped before you move on to your next side, because you don't want it to pop up or spring open or anything like that while you're in the middle of gluing your other side. Like I said, if you're using a wet glue or anything like that, I'm just rubbing off this excess glue because it's kind of clumping there, and I don't want that to kind of make little balls underneath the paper when I put it down later. But if you are using a wet glue or a slow drying glue, definitely clip this. I would suggest maybe putting a piece of paper over it so that you're not clipping directly onto your card, because sometimes when you go to take it off, it can scrape or rip or just make a mess. So maybe put just a piece of normal paper over it before you put your clips, and make sure you don't obviously bring it too close to the edge, otherwise you may actually end up gluing that piece of paper down. This is so easy, anyone can do it. It is, and it's really functional as well. I love my little one for taking notes and to-do lists, and it's so comfy in your hands, and it would make a really nice gift for someone, even for Mother's Day. So if your mum's one of those people who likes to make lists or is quite an organised person, she might really love this for Mother's Day, or she might just love it purely because you made it. So once those are nice and secure, I'm going to tuck in my corners. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my nail and I'm going to find the edge of where my card is on the outside, and I'm just going to nip it. So not so much nip it as dig my nail into it, and I'm kind of curling it. I don't know why I said it like that, but I'm curling it. And then I'm just going to nip the edge just to kind of create that fold, and that's just tucking it in basically. You don't need it to be pushed in or anything. That's going to create a fold here. So if you were to push it in, you would create this little notch almost, and you don't want that. If you find that your fold is sticking out slightly, just take your scissors and tidy it up. So if you feel like it's kind of poking out past your card, you can always just take your scissors and tidy it up to the point where you feel like that's nice and neat and it's not sticking out too much, like so. And if you're not comfortable or confident with your corners, you can always stick book corners on. I really love that look. I actually have book corners on my other little ones. I'm not going to be putting book corners on today purely because my silver ones haven't arrived, but these will be getting book corners on them as well. Same with the big ones, but I'm still waiting on them being delivered. So no book corners today, but you don't need them. It's just a nice addition if you have them. The only reason I haven't ordered them is because these are going in my shop, so I'm going to just trim that down again. And you see how that's kind of poking out kind of past where the edge is. You don't want that, so I'm just going to trim it down. And I think I could trim that a little bit more. You don't want to trim it too much so that your corner is now visible, but you want it nice and tucked. You don't want any edges to kind of poke out slightly. And I didn't fold this before I glued it. Dang nabbit. And there we go. So you want to give it a good few seconds to really dry and grip hold before you put your hole in. But so while that's drying, I'm going to cut our back piece. So this is going to go here. So what we need to find out, and I'll be working in centimetres, is how much we need to cut it to. So 8.5, and that will keep us inside with a nice little border. So 8.5 by 14. So let me open this up. We cut it to 14. Oh, just a no more. By 8.5. I couldn't have done that if I tried. I literally turned it round and it landed on 8.5. And there we go. So this will sit like so. And like I said, you want to leave a slight border. You don't want it to be right up at the edge, because then it's easily going to catch on things. Whereas if you bring it in slightly, it's less likely to catch on things. As the years go on, you don't want this to come away. So you want to make sure that it's not too close to the edge, because that will make it more likely to catch on the odd thing. And if it's just that slightly a bit brought in, it's not going to do that. So here is the front. I really love this paper. And you're going to make sure that you find the top. So if your pattern is like mine and it has a top and bottom, you want to make sure that you poke the hole at the top, because otherwise you'll be gutted. I have done that and it's a pure kick in the teeth to go through all that and then end up putting the hole in the wrong side. So I'm going to find my centre. So it is just over 9 centimetres. So I'm going to do 4.5, and I'm going to put a little dot. And then I'm going to take the small punch. If you don't have a hole punch, you don't need one. You can use your owl. I'll pop my hole. And you want it pretty close to the top, but not too close to the top that your clip will kind of peek off the top. You don't want that. You want it to sit comfortably on the board. All right. So if I bring this up, I don't know if you'll see, but I still have a good millimetre or so at the top. That's kind of what you want, because you want to leave as much space for writing as possible. Alright, so the next you need a brad. So I'm going to be using these silver brads here. And get the bag closed. So they're just little silver brads, and that will slide in there. I'm just going to make sure that that's not too big. You don't want to use anything that's too bulky, because then obviously your clip won't open the full way, which obviously would defeat the purpose of making this whole thing. You're going to need some kind of metal glue, so I'm going to be using Glossy Accents. That's my ride or die metal glue. I've heard people talk about the Gorilla Glue and things like that. I personally don't like it. I've not had good experiences with it, but I know a lot of people swear by it, so just go with what you trust. If you are looking for a good metal glue, I would highly recommend the Glossy Accents. It's affordable and it lasts forever. I think I've had this bottle for about 2 years, and it came in a pack of 2, so I've still got another bottle sitting waiting. So I've just put glue, sorry I was too busy talking there. I've put glue on the bottom around the ring, and then on the bottom on the curvature of the bulb pin, bulldog clip. And then I've also put glue right underneath where the brad is going to sit. So you want your legs to be sitting so that when you open them up, they're going to be facing one here, oh sorry, one here and one here. You don't want any up here because then it might not be hidden by your cardstock later. So you definitely want one this side and one this side. So place it in, and then make sure your bulb pin is straight and nice and situated. And then you're going to take more glue and you're going to put it on your legs of your brad, so either side before you open it, and then just go ahead and open it up. And you're going to need to hold that for a few seconds. I'm not sure about any other glue, but I know that after a few seconds the glossy accents will start to grip, so you want to make sure you give it a good few seconds and then it will hold itself in place. Okay, so this is what we should have now, and that's the back there. And like I said, you want it either side so that when you put your card over the top, they're going to be secure and hidden. So this is going to add an extra bit of security to your brad, and it's going to obviously hide it out the way so that nobody can see it, and it just makes it more polished and more finished looking, I guess, more professional. So then you're going to add glue to the back of your backing card. And make sure you're generous, especially at the edges. You don't want to be overly generous because you don't want it to seep out, but you want to make sure that this isn't going anywhere ever. Not just at the edges, you want to make sure you get right in the center. You could probably use a double-sided sticky tape here as well. I'm not entirely sure. It's not something I generally gravitate towards, but just kind of figure out what you want to be at the top. And then place it down, making sure you get it kind of in the center as much as you can. And then give it a good push. And then I'm going to kind of pop this off the edge of my desk because of the clip. Cannot think of that word today, but because of the clip I'm kind of having to hold it off the edge of my desk so that I can give it a good score. And then you're going to make sure that you give it a really good score up the top where that brad is, and then use your fingers as well to really push those edges in, because your bone folder can only do so much. The pads of your fingers are going to really help push that in. And you want no gaps at all. You want this to be nice and secure. Make sure you get in the center as well, because you don't want any bubbles to form. And just keep pushing at it until your glue is dry, so that you know that it's nice and secure and that it is not going anywhere. And there we have it, our own little vintage styled clipboard. And like I said, you can add book corners. Oh, if I grab this one, I've added bronze book corners to these ones, and these ones will end up with book corners as well. It's just I don't have them at the moment, but you don't have to. It's certainly pretty enough without it. But yeah, I really hope that you enjoyed this and that you were crafting along. If you are interested, these will be for sale in my Etsy very soon, as well as a lot of new products. I'm so excited for this new restock. It's the first big restock I've done since opening my Etsy store, and I'm super excited for it. I have a raffle coming up as well, which I really hope you guys are going to be interested in. I'm so excited to share all these new goodies that I've made for you guys and collected for you guys, and that will be happening very soon, and I will do a video on that shortly. But it is definitely something that you can make at home as well if you want to, and I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys are all well and keeping safe and keeping busy. And I will see you all very soon. Take care and God bless. Bye.